Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're trying up something different. I'm here with my boy. He can go ahead and introduce himself.
Alright everybody, I am Blaze Valkyrum. I go by the same name on pretty much every platform that I'm on. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Ralph Sims Gaming for the opportunity to collaborate on this review. I've had a ton of fun during the recording process and I hope we can do it again real soon.
So my boy put me onto this game called Remnant from the Ashes. So of course in Ralph fashion, I went into this completely blind. But before this, I actually never heard about this game and didn't know what I was in store for. As soon as I turned it on, first thing I noticed, it was just like Dark Souls, just with guns. And as crazy as I thought the combo was going to be, it actually worked. And I've been having a blast since. Let's talk about the story. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic Earth, and the few remaining survivors are fighting against an evil called the Root. The Root has taken over pretty much everything, and when traveling through the world you can see how much of the world has been destroyed. Your character is tasked to put an end to the Root, and to do so by fighting multiple bosses and earning gear and weapons to put an end to the invasion.
As you can see, the starting enemies aren't very difficult. The game is currently set to normal while we're doing the review, but we can very easily see the dodge mechanics are pretty nice. It's basically just a barrel roll so you can get out of the way of incoming projectiles and dodge some of the heavier attacks from the bosses. After completing the tutorial, we find ourselves once again with no weapons. And it's time to start meeting some NPCs and begin our journey. We can now choose our archetype. So there's the ex-cultist, which does mid-ranged attacks. We get a hatchet, we get a nice healing aura, or we can choose the Scrapper, which has a shotgun and a scrap hammer, and allows you to set enemies on fire with its mod. Now, the Hunter specializes in longer range combat, has a nice repeater pistol as well as a Hunter's Mark, which increases critical strike chance on marked targets. I think for now, we're gonna go ahead and choose this one.
Let's talk about the world. So the game has many different locations. One minute you're fighting under sewers and the next you're fighting in a desert against enemies that hit really hard. The map is a decent size and is broken up into sections that you can teleport to if you're near a crystal. And with the map being procedurally generated, you'll fight different bosses every playthrough. You can also reset your world to get the boss that you want to farm for the gear that you want. One thing I can say is that this game has some really nice looking backdrops. And even though the world is pretty much covered in roots, the destruction looks really good, and there was plenty of times I had to stop and pan my camera.
And here we are, in our very first biome. A very good looking post-apocalyptic city. Looks really good, this game, despite it coming out quite a while ago. So, as you're making your way out into the city, be sure that you're checking all of the hidden side paths, because you're going to find things like this. While iron doesn't seem like it would be something that would be overly useful, it is used to get you some pretty good upgrades on your weapons. You will also find crates and things that you can break open, which sometimes will drop money as well as items for crafting. You're going to want to grab all of these up as well. But it's not just crafting materials and money that you'll come across. There's also that blue light right up there, which is a trait book. And traits act as your RPG mechanic. Currently, whenever you first start, you have a couple different ones that you can choose from, but as you gain experience points, you'll be able to get even more, and as you complete certain challenges within the game, you'll unlock a ton more down the road.
let's talk about the gameplay. Okay, so it's pretty much Dark Souls with guns. But for some reason, when I was playing, I kept getting Gears of War vibes also. Probably since it's just a bunch of people trying to survive an invasion. The game gives you a main hub to level your gear, buy items, and teleport to many different levels through a giant crystal that's in the room. Leveling up your gear relies on you getting resources like iron and other materials, so that way you can plus your weapon and your gear that you plan on wearing. The other way to get gear is from killing the many different bosses this game has to offer, and there's a lot of them, and each of them have their own mods that they drop so that you can attach it to your weapon. Let's talk about the combat. Combat is pretty much how it is if you've played Elden Ring or any Dark Souls game, just with guns. It's quick, and you have to be on your toes at all times, especially on higher difficulties. Bosses hit hard. Some of them will one-shot you if you're not careful. For the gun combat, you also get these mods that you can attach to your gun. There's so many different mods, from ones that will summon dogs and other creatures, and then some will add different elemental damage to every shot. Gear also plays a big role, and you will want to make sure that you upgrade both and collect resources throughout the world. I really enjoyed a lot of the boss fights, and some of them were really hard until you figured out the mechanics for the game. Now this is definitely the best mix of Dark Souls type gameplay with guns, and it's executed so well. Now I know I've had a lot of positive things to say about the game, but this brings me to everybody's favorite part. Let's talk about the cons.
On the con side is the multiplayer, unfortunately. Now, I did have an opportunity to work with Ralph Sims Gaming whenever we were recording this review, and we had a couple issues where the connection to one another would crash out and we would be forced to reconnect or relaunch the game in order to play together. Did the game break?
No.
You're running in place on my screen.
You said I'm running in place?
Yeah. Now, whether that was on the game's side or one of us had a connection issue still is yet to be determined. However, this has been a known issue since the game first came out. I'm hoping the second game has received much better marks in that regard. On the negative side, however, is the consumable usage. So while you can increase the speed at which you use your consumables, they do occasionally get you into situations where you're locked into place or visually impaired to the point where you're no longer able to see a boss. I think this is more of a me issue than the game issue. I believe it's intended to work the way it is, specifically to make sure that, well, you don't want to be getting hit in the first place.
Well, to be honest, I don't really have any issues with the game. I mean, the story was a little boring at times, but still interesting enough to keep me engaged. And I did have a couple crashes, but other than that, I didn't really have any complaints. Now, it's not a perfect game, but from summoning dogs to taking out giant mutated monkeys, I give Remnant from the Ashes a 9 out of 10.
Overall, how would I rate the game? Definitely around an 8, especially considering how much of a great time I had when recording the multiplayer session, and the visuals, the gunplay, and overall the amount of replayability.
I'm playing through Remnant 2 now, so I will have my review out on it when I'm done. You guys take care, and let me know down in the comments if you like Remnant 1 and are you playing Remnant 2. Make sure you comment, like, and sub. And I want to say thank you for Blaze for us to be able to collaborate on this review together. I had a ton of fun playing.